Hey everyone, and welcome to this All Nutrition Explainer. Today we are taking on one of the most hotly debated, flip-flopping topics in the entire nutrition world. We've combed through a massive body of research, exactly 47 different scientific publications to be precise, to finally decode the ultimate dietary debate surrounding eggs. Are they a miraculous superfood or a complete dietary villain? Well, we're going to break down the science, strictly based on the data. Let's get into it. It's the question we all just want a simple, straightforward yes or no to, right? Are eggs actually good for you? I mean, we see the headlines completely contradict each other almost every single year. But as we synthesize this massive stock of research, a recurring theme is going to emerge. If you're looking for a one-word answer to whether eggs are healthy, that word is going to be our catchphrase for today's explainer. It depends. Because, as you'll see, your individual biology fundamentally changes how this food interacts with your body. Okay, let's dive right in. Here is our roadmap. First, the great egg controversy, then brain, eyes, and muscles, gut health and hidden risks, comparing the alternatives, and finally, your personal egg context. Section 1. The Great Egg Controversy. We've got to address the historical elephant in the room right off the bat, cardiovascular health and that infamous cholesterol hypothesis. For decades, dietary cholesterol in egg yolks basically made them public enemy number one. But a huge reason why the science often seems to completely contradict itself is because of study populations. Honestly, if findings from different sources look entirely different, it's usually because we're looking at completely different groups of people. For instance, in a lot of Western cohorts, egg consumption is sometimes associated with a higher risk of cardiovascular disease. But when we shift our context and look at Asian populations, we see entirely different associations. Why? Well, because Asian diets generally feature way lower intakes of unprocessed red meat and much higher intakes of fish. When your baseline diet changes, the way a single egg impacts your overall health risk changes completely. You literally can't evaluate the egg in a vacuum. A recent narrative review from our source list highlights something absolutely fascinating. Science is actively reevaluating the cholesterol hypothesis. It turns out, dietary cholesterol from eggs does not automatically equate to skyrocketing blood cholesterol for everyone. Instead, researchers are looking much closer at broader, modern dietary drivers, like, are you eating that egg with a side of greasy, highly processed bacon and refined white toast? Because honestly, that matters far more than the egg itself. Some evidence even suggests eggs might improve the functionality of your good HDL cholesterol, though, full disclosure, the effects are pretty inconsistent depending on exactly who you study. Section 2. Brain, eyes, and muscles. Once we look past the whole cholesterol panic, we find some undeniably amazing physiological benefits. This is where the egg really shines as a nutrient-dense little package. Let's run through these benefits because they're pretty incredible. First up, choline. Eggs are a massive dietary source of choline, which is absolutely critical for neurotransmission and even fetal brain development. Second, lutein and zeaxanthin. These are powerful antioxidants packed into the yolk that basically act like natural blue light filters for your eyes. And finally, high-quality protein. What's super fascinating here is that studies actually show consuming whole eggs stimulates post-exercise muscle protein synthesis way more effectively than consuming just the egg whites. The lipids and micronutrients in the yolk literally provide extra anabolic benefits to help those muscles grow. But again, context is everything. Let's look at how specific dosages and your overall dietary pattern totally dictate these benefits. In a 6-month trial studying avocados, which, just like eggs, contain lutein, they actually found no significant cognitive benefit in centrally obese adults. But on the flip side, a Japanese study found that consuming mushrooms, which represents a broader dietary pattern rich in various bioactives, did improve cognitive performance. So what's the takeaway here? You can't just rely on a single nutrient from a single food to magically boost your brain power. It's the synergy of your overall diet that really supports cognition. And speaking of nutrient dosages, we have to talk about scale. To get actual clinical eye benefits from highly bioavailable lutein, research shows you need a therapeutic dose of over 20 milligrams a day to significantly improve your macular pigment optical density. To put that into perspective, an egg yolk has a fantastic, highly bioavailable form of lutein, but you are not getting anywhere near 20 milligrams from a normal breakfast scramble. Achieving that therapeutic dose usually requires targeted supplementation on top of your standard diet. Moving right along to Section 3, gut health and hidden risks. If you thought eggs were completely harmless for absolutely everyone, well, the gut microbiome has a huge surprise for you. This brilliantly illustrates why eggs can actually be quite risky for certain individuals. Let's talk about TMAO. When you eat choline-rich foods like eggs, certain specific bacteria in your gut process those nutrients into a compound called trimethylamine, or TMA. Your liver then oxidizes it into TMAO. Now, why does this matter? Because elevated levels of TMAO are strongly linked in the research to a much higher risk of cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes. So, for some people with specific gut bacteria, eating an egg literally creates a toxic byproduct in their body. Wild, right? This brings us right back to our catchphrase. It depends on the individual. Take folks with chronic kidney disease, or CKD, for example. They are generally advised to strictly limit animal proteins, precisely because their impaired kidneys really struggle to clear out uremic toxins like TMAO. However, and here is the crazy nuance, egg whites are sometimes actually recommended for patients on dialysis. Why? Because egg whites are extremely low in phosphorus compared to other animal proteins. So even within a high-risk group, the specific part of the egg you choose to eat completely flips the medical recommendation. Section 4, comparing the alternatives. So say you're someone who needs or just wants to limit your egg intake. What are your options? Let's see how eggs stack up against other proteins according to the data. When we compare protein quality using the DIAS score, which is basically a gold standard measure of digestibility, eggs and whey protein are top tier, scoring right around or even above 100. Beef sits a bit lower, but high intake comes with an increased cardiovascular risk. Now, contrast that with legumes. They have a significantly lower protein quality score of around 50 to 70, meaning they're just less digestible and have fewer essential amino acids on their own. But they are absolutely packed with fiber and folates, and their cardiovascular risk profile is highly beneficial. You're basically trading a bit of protein efficiency for a much happier heart and gut. If you want hard proof of how swapping proteins actually impacts your health, just look at the Food One crossover trial. This study found that when participants swapped out their red meat for processed plant-based meat substitutes, they actively lowered their TMAO levels and lowered their LDL cholesterol. Even though the plant-based meats were processed, the simple act of removing those animal protein precursors fundamentally improved the risk markers in their blood. It's a really fascinating look at how alternative proteins can actively alter our internal chemistry. Finally, Section 5, your personal egg context. We've hit the heart, the brain, the muscles, and the gut. Now, let's tie this all together, summarize the broader landscape of this research, and figure out what it actually means for your breakfast plate. But as we look closely at these 47 publications, some pretty massive evidence gaps appear that we have to be critical of. For instance, some of the really exciting muscle-building studies, like the ones looking at a yolk-derived compound called fortotropin, are heavily industry-sponsored. We always have to keep that in mind. Furthermore, a huge chunk of this research relies almost entirely on Western, middle-aged, overweight cohorts, meaning we don't fully know how these dynamics play out in children, the elderly, or elite athletes. Plus, we severely lack rigorous, randomized trials lasting longer than 1 to 2 years. So what is the final evidence-based verdict based on guidelines like the Nordic Nutrition Recommendations and our broader synthesis? Simply put, 1 to 2 eggs per day can absolutely be part of a healthy diet. They are incredibly nutrient-dense. But, and it is a massive but, the true health impact relies heavily on our it depends motif. It depends entirely on your genetics, the specific bacteria sitting in your gut right this second, and the rest of your daily lifestyle. An egg is not a magic superfood, and it certainly isn't a poison. It's a puzzle piece that has to fit perfectly into your unique biological picture. So I leave you with this absolutely crucial question. What is your personal egg context? Are your gut bacteria turning that yolk into a cardiovascular risk? Or are your muscles and brain soaking up all those vital nutrients? Please don't leave it to guesswork. Head over to the All Nutrition platform at allnutrition.info. You can plug in your specific context, your exact age, your weight, your baseline health conditions, and get a truly personalized nutritional verdict based on this exact science. Because when it comes down to it, the only context that truly matters is yours. So, are you eating for your unique biology, or are you just following the crowd?